Good morning, buenos dias. Thank you for joining us this morning as we convey a very important message to our community this morning. I'll begin my comments in English and then transition over to Spanish as well. We'll also be hearing from the investigators that have been working diligently on this case since it happened, as well as a representative for the family as well. Our hearts are broken, and so first and foremost, we want to extend our deepest condolences to Carlos's family. As I mentioned that morning, I was at the scene, that as a father myself, our heart breaks. We shouldn't be burying our children. Gun violence is a terrible thing, but especially when it impacts our youngest and our brightest. As I said that morning as well, that morning, Carlos should have been waking up like many other mornings and heading to school and continuing to learn, and it's not only a loss for the family, but also a loss for our community. We lose the promise of a young mind, of a young child that could have been something great. He's a handsome young man. If you've seen his pictures, it just, again, breaks your heart. And so we wanted to make sure that we do everything possible to capture the coward, the individual that would take this beautiful life from us. I can assure you that since that morning, the team has been working diligently around the clock. I've been monitoring the progress and everything that they've been doing, not because of any other reason, just because of care and concern for the family and the community. And again, anytime that this happens to a child, it's extra important. The team has been working, again, around the clock. They're phenomenal. I have full confidence in their investigative abilities, and the team that's actively still searching for Terry Brian Rivera. You can see his picture here. I want to make sure that we continue to get that out. Again, I mean, our heart breaks for the family, and we're doing everything possible to locate him. He's still on the run. He's still wanted for capital murder, and we're not going to rest until we find him. And we also want to send a very strong message to anyone that may be hiding him out or assisting him, that you too will be fouled on. And we'll encourage that if you're out there trying to conceal him, hide him, assist him, or anything. He's wanted for capital murder, the highest charge possible. And so we want to make sure that we're doing everything possible to locate him and that no one's out there assisting him, because you will be fouled on as well for doing that. Want to also mention that I'm aware as well that there was a previous call for service Friday night involving Terry arriving there at the apartment complex, creating a disturbance. During his involvement there, he did brandish a gun. He did assault Ashley, allegedly, and that's what we did. Our deputy spent between 30 to 45 minutes on that scene that night, collecting information and also contacting the district attorney's office. At the end, it was decided that charges weren't accepted at that time based on the information that was available, and it didn't go further in terms of at that moment. A report was generated by our deputy. It appears that the deputy did the most that the deputy could do at that point, and the case was to be continued or sent over for additional follow-up investigation. I want to say that that's not always an anomaly. Sometimes that's very common, where there's just simply not enough information. By that time, Rivera had fled. He wasn't present to either get his statement or to potentially effect an arrest. And so the case was going to be moved for further follow-up. Of course, this happened within 48 hours of that incident occurring. Briefly in Spanish, and then we'll continue through the program. Nuestro corazón está roto por esta familia. Como han visto la foto de Carlos, es solamente 12 años de edad, un niño tan simpático, lleno de promesa, como mencioné ese día en la escena, que él debía de haber estado preparándose para la escuela y para seguir su camino adelante, y podía haber sido algo muy importante y muy grande, un niño muy simpático, y nosotros como padres nos duele mucho esta pérdida. Es una pérdida no solamente para la familia, pero también para toda la comunidad, porque no podemos ver ese futuro realizado. eh, eh, también hemos revisado un poco el caso que pasó el incidente el viernes. El oficial llegó, duró como entre 30 a 45 minutos ahí en la escena. Revisamos el caso con la fiscalía. En ese momento se determinó no aceptar cargos en ese momento, que tal vez no había suficiente evidencia o necesitaba más investigación, y eso iba a ser parte de los próximos pasos, pero el Terry Brian Rivera ya había huido de esa escena y después obviamente tomó esta decisión menos de 48 horas después cuando regresó de nuevo al apartamento. Entonces eso también lo estamos revisando y lo podemos investigar para ver si podemos mejorar en esa respuesta, pero estamos aquí hoy para recordar que el enfoque es de enfocarnos en el señor, nosotros hicimos el cobarde porque le quitó la vida a un niño y ahora está huyendo y no quiere ser responsable. Queremos que se entregue y también avisarle al público que no lo estén escondiendo ni asistiendo, porque si lo hacen también pueden perjudicarse. Es un crimen estar escondiendo a alguien que estamos en búsqueda de un crimen. Also want to just point out just the impact that Carlos had at such a young age. You know, it's a great showing to see the family here. They're all grieving. I had an opportunity to speak with them. They're all grieving. And the showing here today really speaks to how important this is to them and how important it is to locate this individual. He's considered armed and dangerous, so we want to make sure we get him off the streets as quickly as possible. And we ask the public, whether it be that you are influenced by the reward, which is up to $5,000, or if you just want to do the right thing as a parent or someone in the community to stand up and make sure that he gets justice, that we bring justice. We can never replace Carlos, but we could try to bring some semblance of closure to the family to make sure he's not continues to be on the run. And we ask you to please do that. You could contact the Crime Stoppers at 713-222-TIPS, 713-222-TIPS, that's 8477, and report it anonymously. You could be also eligible for reward. Again, we encourage you to please do that. Help us get this accused killer off the streets as quickly as possible. At this point, I want to ask Investigator Hayes with the Harris County Sheriff's Office Homicide just to give us a brief recap of the incident and anything he wants to share.
I'm Investigator Hayes. I work with the Harris County Sheriff's Office Homicide Unit. On March 4th, deputies responded to a shooting call at the 13,900 block of Alderson. And it's culminated in this tragic event, the shooting death of Carlos Fernandez. Through the course of the investigation, we identified a suspect, Terry Rivera. We filed a capital murder charge from Mr. Rivera, and we're seeking the public's any information the public may have as to where his whereabouts are. We're actively pursuing this investigation at this stage in terms of investigating the community out there and trying to locate Mr. Rivera, but we desperately need the community's help in locating him and either contacting Crime Stoppers with his address and whereabouts or the Harris County Sheriff's Office Homicide Unit.
Thank you. And again, I have full faith. Investigator Hayes, Sergeant Pinken's here, Lieutenant Katrib is here as well. His lieutenant, he's been on this. Major Suarez that oversees all of Criminal Investigations Bureau. We have other members of our agency here. We have Major Earl Dean as well as Major Nanny and Assistant Chief Tommy Diaz that are here as well. So this is a big priority for everyone. There's an active manhunt, the best in the business at tracking down individuals. So we're not going to rest. They take it personally, especially when there involves a child, so they've been on it. Again, I referenced the strong showing here of the family. You know, they're devastated, heartbroken. Again, our condolences go out to Ashley Rostro, the mom of Carlos, and you see so many relatives, and I'm sure there's many others that couldn't be here right now, but that they stand behind this family, and this community stands behind this family. And I want to commend the media partners that are here today, because you've been keeping the story alive every single day, and we appreciate that. And so Ashley asked if the uncle, Carlos's uncle, could Delfino Gonzalez could say a few words on behalf of the family. She's just you know, very devastated at this moment and would rather he speak at this point, but he's speaking on behalf of himself Ashley and the entire family that's here. So it's Delfino Gonzalez, an uncle, correct?
Yes,
Good morning, everybody. First and foremost, I want to thank the investigators for working hard and trying to make sure that this coward is apprehended. I want to thank you guys for pushing this and keeping this thing going, because what we lost is something that's never going to be replaced, and just capturing this guy is just some type of closure for us. And I want to thank all of Houston, the community, everybody who reached out, the calls, the texts, the prayers. It means a lot. It says a lot about the community. It says a lot about Houston and what we're about, and it means a lot. Losing my nephew, that's probably one of the hardest things we've had to deal with, just because he was the life of the family. Always in a good mood, always positive, never seen him mad. He was a protector all the way to the very end. He always protected, whether it was his cousins, whether it was his sisters, his mom. He always put everybody else in front of him. And for this tragic event to happen it's ridiculous. We have to protect our kids out here, and when you got people like this just out here not caring, and it's crazy. If you're harboring this guy, or if you're helping him out in any type of way, you're just as guilty as him, because you're protecting someone who's out there who's careless and just destroyed lives, not just one life, not two lives, but several lives. We're going to have to go on the rest of our life not seeing our baby, and for what? There's just no reason for it. And again, from the family, we just want to thank everybody who's involved in helping and trying to apprehend this guy. And the prayers and calls, that's huge to us. It means a lot. It means, we have people not just in Houston, but from all over calling and texting and sending messages and well wishes and condolences. And it's just huge for us. It'll never take away the pain, but it helps us a little bit kind of cope with what's going on and trying to deal with this. And there's so much mixed emotions going on right now, and we just need to keep our composure and let the investigators do their job and make that our primary focus is capturing this guy and making sure that he pays for what he did.
Great job. Do you speak Spanish?
I don't.
You want to say something in Spanish?
She speaks.
We're just going to say a few words in Spanish as well from another family member. Just you can keep it brief.
Solo lo que dijo mi esposo es, quería darle las gracias a la comunidad, a la prensa, a los investigadores por tener esta noticia presente. Y la persona que esté escondiendo a este cobarde, ustedes también van a pagar. Hay consecuencias. Y como les decimos, el niño era una persona muy amorosa, era un buen niño con un corazón bien grande, y todos lo querían, la comunidad, sus amigos, sus abuelos. Todo lo que pedimos es que si por favor saben dónde se está escondiendo este cobarde, que lo entreguen a los policías. Gracias.
Thank you, both. Gracias. Want to also emphasize, as we memorialize and remember Carlos, we've spoken about his age, but I don't want to also, I also want to just mention just what a heroic act he did till the very end. It's my understanding that I initially thought he was sleeping in the room, but it's my understanding he was sleeping, I think, in the living room. And when he heard the commotion, he could have just hidden. He could have ran a mom or somebody or done something else. He ran to the danger. He ran to go check on his sisters, 6 and 7 years old, to protect them. And in some ways he did, because that bullet could have easily injured one of them. And he'd be with us, but it would have been tragic nonetheless. But the fact that he went to investigate himself, to go see what was happening, to see what was commotion, really speaks to his strength, the hero that he was, the young man that he was. Again, I could only imagine how much greatness was going to come from a Carlos Fernandez as he continued to grow up, and it's a loss for our community. I'll go ahead and open it to any questions at this point.
Sheriff, why was the suspect not arrested on Friday? He had a gun, he assaulted Ashley. What more evidence did you guys need to arrest him?
First of all, he wasn't present, so there was no one to arrest at the scene. He was charged. Yeah. Charged is he, but arrested he wasn't on the scene. As far as charged, it's my understanding, I obviously wasn't there, but based on our review, that the elements of the crime of what was conveyed at the scene and passed on to the district attorney's office in its review, which is customary for us to contact them as they listen to the elements of the crime and what we had. Certain elements they felt weren't made while there was a weapon present. It wasn't already pointed or directly at someone other than having it present, and again, needed more follow-up. I think the gun was pointed at a vehicle and threats to shoot up the vehicle. A gun was present, and then there were also aspects of the assault happening. There's not always charges filed immediately at the scene. It's not uncommon for it to be sent over for additional follow-up investigation. Because we can't also just charge someone, again, that may not be present just based on some version of the incident and not necessarily hearing the other side of it as well. You know, at the end of the day, we have to make sure that we have a charge that we could file. And for me personally, it's not about pointing fingers to them or us. Look, on our side, we want to review and see how we could do better, if the response could be better. Based on what we saw, we felt that the deputy completed report, did what they were supposed to do. I mean, again, I wasn't there. I don't know all the different points to it, so it is being reviewed as well. But it's not always uncommon. In hindsight, yeah, I wish he would have been locked up. We wish a lot of things could have happened. You know, we often talk in these matters, and you all know because you cover them, where we talk about that there is a documented history of violence or family violence and things like that, unfortunately. And at the end of the day, it's the individuals that at the end of the day move forward and make these tragic, life-changing decisions, and ultimately he's the one responsible for that.
Sheriff, not to point fingers or anything, but I just want to have a clear understanding because someone from the DA's office said there's no documentation that a gun was involved in that Friday incident, and I know your point of view is that the job was clearly done. It was documented that he had a gun on scene, correct?
Correct. I know Lieutenant Katrib's been reviewing this, and
Right, I just
what for the information we have, and
Yeah.
again, is that the gun being present was mentioned in our communication to the district, whoever received the call at district attorney's office.
Okay.
That's our information that we have, right? That it was mentioned. Now, I don't know if it was added in the report afterwards, but at least for purposes of potentially filing a charge, it was mentioned, and ultimately it was decided that, you know, a charge wasn't to be filed at that particular moment. Yeah, I'm sorry, go ahead. No, go ahead.
We spoke to, completely understand, we spoke to Carlos's mother who, I mean, ultimately, right, she is obviously in such pain right now, and our hearts do go out to her. But she said, I feel like this system failed me. I wanted him charged. Can you respond to that?
Yeah, I've spoken to her. I've explained, like, for me, first and foremost, and I've expressed this to them, my focus is on this individual and getting him off the streets. We have a capital murder case. We could look back and review everything that's been done to this point and see where we could have done better. If you're right, it is a system that we all operate under. There's elements of a crime that we have to prove up, and as I mentioned, it happens every day where assaults occur and a charge may not be filed on the scene. You know that it's eventually for follow-up, and then charges may have been filed. So they know that we're committed to this. We understand their concerns. We understand that they want to have some better understanding of that communication. Based on the information I've received and we reviewed, we feel that we did convey the information. And if a decision wasn't made at the end of the day, it's again a system. And for me, just personally, at the end of the day, we could point fingers all day long and say, he said, you know, this should have happened. You know, hindsight's always 20/20. But, you know, again, this transpired pretty quickly, even within 48 hours. And so this just so again, our focus is here. I've extended our deepest condolences to them. I'm assuring them that we're doing everything possible to bring closure, and we are reviewing that case as well. And look, we understand they're grieving and they're hurting, and yeah, they want to understand all aspects of this, of how did we get here. And so do we. We want to make sure that our response is always the best possible. And we want to make sure that we do that.
And the gun allegedly used that was used to kill him, was it stolen from the apartment? Can you speak to if that was the case?
Yeah.
That's still under investigation.
Okay, you can't elaborate on anything.
I can't elaborate on it now.
Or if it was
There's
stolen from the
a whole
apartment.
process to that, and it's still under investigation.
Can you talk about where his truck was found?
I'm not going to talk about where his truck was found, but his truck was recovered shortly after the report of this and the filing of a charge.
And y'all believe he's still in the Houston area?
Yes.
And on that note, any areas that he frequents, any workplaces or places you think people should be looking out for?
Anywhere in Harris County. We just need the public to be vigilant. He's a very recognizable individual, and we really need the community's help in locating him, and I have no doubt that that will be done.
And on the same note, could you explain what those tattoos on his neck are?
No, I can't. So they're tattoos.
What about his
Does
daughter?
anybody know?
Yeah, if anyone can. Like,
His daughter's names is what we're told.
okay, so it's script then
Yeah.
on the neck.
And as far as the search and all that, like to your point, look, we're looking everywhere. And it's, an individual can only hide so long without some help. And so, again, that's why I issued the warning about the hindering apprehension, because we want to make it clear to everybody, he's wanted on the most serious charge that could possibly be filed. And they too can be held accountable for that and be charged. And we will charge them if we determine that indeed they were hiding him out. But you know, we're leaving no stone unturned. Our search is near and far, and if we want to locate. Yeah.
Algo así puede elaborar un poco más en referencia a lo que explicó. ¿Dónde fue el problema entre que se impusieran cargos esa noche, fuera arrestado y evitar esta tragedia y el trabajo que hicieron ustedes?
Sí, como mencioné anteriormente, revisamos los hechos en la escena esa noche. La oficial estuvo ahí como entre 30 a 45 minutos. Dio la comunicación a la oficina de la fiscalía, revisaron los datos que se tenían a ese momento y al final la oficina de la fiscalía son los que determinan si va a haber cargos, y en ese momento no se aceptaron los cargos. La persona ya había huido, no estaba en la escena, no lo podíamos haber arrestado como quiera, pero no quiere decir, no es algo raro que a veces no se aceptan los cargos en ese mismo momento, simplemente se requiere más investigación. No estoy diciendo yo que fue la decisión correcta o mala que se hizo de la oficina de la fiscalía, pero eso fue lo que se decidió en ese momento, que se iba a necesitar más investigación, eso iban a ser los otros pasos, pero en ese momento esta tragedia resultó como 48 horas después de que pasó esa llamada.
Me parece que en un principio habían mencionado que él venía acompañado esa noche, hasta ahorita solamente...
Esa noche, cuando él pasó el lunes, yo pienso, siempre, como no teníamos todos los detalles, pensábamos que podía haber sido que alguien más estaba presente, pero yo creo que solamente vino solo, digo, no sabemos, pero si había alguien más, por eso se mantiene el caso abierto, esta investigación pendiente. Porque si alguien tiene información, queremos que nos llamen y digan, mira, él estaba con un amigo, un familiar o algo. The question was, because we mentioned that morning that we didn't know if it was a suspect or suspects, and that's just a general statement we make simply because we don't know if there were other accomplices at the time. Investigator Hayes, I don't know if we developed if he acted alone, but we do ask the public to call us if there was somebody else involved in any of this transaction or situation that occurred. But any knowledge of anyone else?
No, we believe he acted alone in this, but that's not to say that he isn't having help from some type of person or people to hide him. So we need those people to come forward and not jeopardize their safety and their freedom and turn him in.
Parece que actuó solo.
Sheriff, I just need some clarification. So you said that initially it was understood that Carlos was sleeping in the bedroom with his two sisters, and the bullet came through from outside somewhere or through an open window. seems like things have changed a little bit. If you can go into detail, like where exactly, I understand now that he was sleeping in the living room and then he ran towards danger, but how exactly did Rivera get into the apartment? Was he inside the apartment or was he shooting from the outside?
Sure. Yeah, one of the things I always try to convey, and I may have mentioned it that morning, it's all the information is always preliminary because ultimately that's why the investigators are on the scene, our crime scene investigators, so things are always, once we gather more facts and interviews, we don't always have that benefit when we're going to convey the information to you that morning. So I'll let Investigator Hayes kind of just what transpired, where Carlos was at, and what we think happened.
What are the latest details that are more accurate?
I'm not going to go too in-depth in it. He was inside the room of the house when he was struck, and we believe the shooting occurred from the outside of the apartment.
So Rivera was outside the apartment?
Correct.
And shot into?
Through the window.
Through the window.
And the window was open at the time?
Yes.
Gotcha. And was he aware that, because the two little girls are his daughters, is that correct? Sisters?
I believe he was aware of who was in the apartment at the time, so based on who lived there and his history with that location.
So was the entire family in one room at the time then?
No.
So the two girls were in the bedroom, and then Carlos was sleeping in the living
Elsewhere.
room.
Correct.
And his mother Ashley was elsewhere. Carlos runs into his sister's bedroom first after he hears gunfire, or?
I can't speculate as to what made him go into the room, but yeah, there was noises, there was gunfire. It was a chaotic scene, and unfortunately, it resulted in a loss of life.
Do we think multiple shots were fired?
Yes.
Multiple shots were fired.
Gotcha. But Rivera, it appears he was outside the apartment.
That's correct.
He had not broken in or anything like that.
No, yes.
But he did break into the apartment days prior, 48 hours earlier. Is that correct?
That's all under investigation, so I'm not going to get into the details of that part of the investigation.
And real quick, Sheriff, just to touch back on that Friday incident, did your deputies make any attempt to contact Rivera after the assault to gather more information?
It happened on a Friday night, so the initial follow-up wouldn't have happened immediately. It's sent to the investigative division, where it's then assigned to an investigator, and then they would do it. Once it goes to the investigative process, it's not an immediate kind of, hey, this just happened, we're sending it to you. Unfortunately, in this county and region, we deal with a lot of domestic violence situations, a lot of assaults, a lot of disturbances, and it's a busy region, so. There wasn't an immediate, and it typically wouldn't happen. It's just submitted for follow-up. Yeah.
So the investigator had submitted his information to the DA's office before trying to contact Rivera?
No, the deputy announces or expresses the facts of the case as they know it from the scene. The deputy wasn't there when all this transpired, neither was the DA. So it's conveyed to the DA. The DA ultimately then decides, based on what was conveyed to them, is there something chargeable or that can be charged or a charge filed at that point? Our deputies have done a pretty good job of when things do rise of a level where a charge is filed, that many times we call it kind of walking it through the process. They get an active warrant, and then there would have been some type of active warrant. Now, would it have been a felony? We don't know what ultimately could have. There's a range of things that could have potentially been looked at for filing. Ultimately, whether it's a misdemeanor or felony, it's then entered into the system as an active warrant. And we have thousands of active warrants around Harris County, so then if the person is stopped, arrested for something else, whatever, then they would, it's not necessarily an active manhunt for just a warrant, unlike something like this, but that's what would have happened. It would have just been an active warrant, and then there would have been a follow-up where they would have said, now that we've maybe taken a more formal sworn statement from Ashley, anybody else that was there, then now we revisit the case with the DA's office and then say, okay, now I feel that there's more information to accept a charge.
We'll take one last question.
I know that
Sheriff, what do we know about the suspect? Prior bad acts, prior domestic violence things, anything in his record? Does he have a record? Is he, you know, how do we know that, you know, we've got a man on the streets, armed, dangerous, we're putting out the word on him, but what do we know about him? And this particularly, and this, I would direct it at Inspector Hayes, the psychopathy of this killer. He's killed a 12-year-old boy by shooting him through glass. He may have wanted to kill his daughters. What kind of fury are we dealing with?
Investigator Hayes, you want to talk about the profile a little bit of what we know, just generally speaking of his background?
This individual killed a 12-year-old boy while people were sleeping. He's an incredibly dangerous individual. The public needs to take caution if they run across him and let us know where he's at above all else. I'm not going to get into the psychology. I'm not a psychologist or anything like that of, you know, his criminal profile, but that's the type of person we're dealing with. We're dealing with a cowardly individual who shot a 12-year-old boy while everyone was sleeping inside of an apartment. And we need the public to help bring him to justice and hold him accountable in our court system.
Is he a gang member?
Does he have previous arrest?
Yes, he's been previously arrested before.
Is he a gang member?
I don't know.
Él está relacionado a alguna pandilla.
Nosotros, de nuestro aspecto, no podemos hablar sobre esos temas. Digo, I don't know if he's gang affiliated or not. Again, at the end of the day, our focus is on getting him. You know, family obviously would have more information. Our main thing is always, let's get our hands on the body, on this person. The profile and everything will end up, you know, that's why we want him to come forward and own up to what happened and give his side of the story, you know. But until we locate him, that's our main priority. You know, out of respecting kind of due process and you know, making sure that ultimately, one thing that I want to speak about is that sometimes we are limited in sharing certain facts because we don't want to jeopardize the potential prosecution down the road. We want to make sure that there's a fair trial and that it's a just trial, and so we can't always just speculate on what we think. Our main thing is we know the elements of the crime. We're there with this alleged suspect on this capital murder. He's been charged, and we want to locate him. And then, is this a pretty current photo? Yeah, 2023. Yeah, he could have obviously now be wearing a cap or some type of other concealing thing, but this is what he would look like.
Do we have a possible motive at all? Is it retaliation? Is it because he's no longer with Miss Ashley? Do we know at all?
I'm not going to speculate.
Yeah, just look, on that day he chose to do that, and obviously, you know, he's an ex to Ashley, and as we've all talked about, these domestic situations could be very deadly and hard for the family. It could have been Ashley, it could have been the other girls. I mean, it's just a very, we always talk about the dangerousness of these type of situations. And so, okay, thank you all very much, and we'll continue updates as we could, and hopefully the next update will be that we located him.
Do we
So,
have the uncle's first and last name?
Delfino,
Investigator
yeah,
Delfino.
Delfino. Gonzalez, he spells it with an S, not the right way, the Z, but Gonzalez, but Gonzales, and then Investigator Hayes, Hayes.
Yes, sir.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. Thank you so much. Gracias. Thank you.